Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. First off, I apologize for the background noise, but we do have the spare trans getting built for All Truck Challenge. We do have the 07 up on the lift, and our good friend Nick Bell is in town. So we have this thing up, and we are going to be doing the ring and pinion and axle shafts as well on this unit. We have, introduce yourself.
Clayton Green.
Clayton Green, where are you from?
I'm in Virginia.
All right. So we have a new mentorship program here where we get the high school students come in and do all of our dirty work.
Yes, sir.
All right. What'd you do earlier today?
Pull up trans and eco diesel.
Okay. So over there, look at that. Champion. Anyway, I'm gonna have him rip the tires off, drain the gear oil out. Basically, we need to make this as easy for Nick Bell as possible tomorrow. So we're gonna get that done, and then once we get all that pulling apart, we'll lower the truck back down, take the front wheels off, and we're gonna replace the axles in the front as well. So I will spare you guys the teardown, at least on the back end, and we will get this going. We're going with all Yukon shafts. The front is just more of a safety precaution, but we're gonna replace it with Yukon axle shafts in the front as well. And while it's in the air, just go over all of our steering and track bar, which this is a Dodge off-road track bar, so yes, I waited about 9 months, but it still is holding strong. Let's get this all taken apart and show you guys what the diff looks like. Oh, look at this professional, semi-professional. Look at that. Who taught you that bolt trick? Self-taught?
I think it's your YouTube channel, to be honest.
Oh, we got a fan. You want any autographs?
Huh?
You want any autograph? This is probably better than an autograph, huh?
Yeah, to get to work on the truck.
Guys, I'm gonna be honest. When anybody ever offers to help, I never turn them down. Even if I need help peeling stickers off, I always appreciate it. So, as you guys can see there, the gear oil didn't look too bad. Go ahead and pull her all the way off there, champ. So, just for reference, guys, this is the AAM gear set. As you can see, really not that bad. We are starting to get quite a bit of pitting on the ring gear there. You can just set that down on the ground. I do change this gear oil quite frequently. But yeah, I mean, honestly, you guys can see kind of the grooves really starting to dig into that pinion back there. But all in all, can you spin the tires for me, Clayton? Yeah, see, we're starting to get some pretty good pitting in some of these. So it was definitely time. Ooh, yeah, that right there is some major. Oh, stop right there. Yeah, it's time for a pinion, or ring gear and pinion, obviously. Well, I think we found our limit. About 18 hooks on one of these guys, and you guys, if you look, you can actually see the teeth are really starting to change shape. So this was kind of it. I'm glad Nick's coming down to help us. If I'm being honest, I struggle with gears. I can do like factory power truck gears, but I always get really nervous on like the big power stuff. So that is why we're enlisting Nick. But man, that's a chunk right there. All right, guys, for those of you that live in rusty places, now I already freed this one up, but I will show you how we do it. Clayton, can you hold the camera for us? Okay. Take an air hammer. So we're loose there. Now we'll go to the other side. This one, Clayton, as my witness, we have not beat on at all. Right?
Yes, sir.
The bolts are all out, right? That's how it's done, guys. Right there. And just so you guys could see, we were not BSing. That is some rust. That is rust. So what we'll do, we're gonna reuse those hubs because there was nothing wrong with them. We'll just hit all this with some, like a scuff pad, clean out the inner bore here, clean out the exterior of the hub, and then we will put it back together, torque them down, and put this back together. The real reason why we came in here is these axle shafts. Now, as you can see, we're not looking too bad. This one's got a slight curve to it, which is normal. The stub shafts look okay, which is good, but we're gonna be replacing it with these Yukon spline ones. I'll go get them now. I want to give you guys a nice side-by-side comparison. These are the Yukon 4340 axles for your factory carrier. So if you look, the spline count's the same. You guys can see here, Yukon went with a much thicker diameter here, especially compared to this. You see it kind of up close. So they got rid of this weak spot. Same thing on the shorter axle side as well. Again, the splines are the same. And then if you come over here, they also went a little bit beefier on the stub shaft as well. And the material itself is stronger. Again, this is a 4340. The factory axles are pretty strong on the front. I haven't had a lot of issues with them. And even these, like the U-joints, aren't bad yet. So these will be our spares. But for right now, we'll get these all set up. I just kind of wanted to show you guys the difference here on the Yukon. And again, these are factory drop-in. But let's get to work. And we have our shaft fully assembled here. Stick her in, put the hub on, torque it down. Clayton, how do you feel about just wrenching away on this here unit?
It's an honor.
It's an honor? Yeah. How many bolts are cross-threaded?
Well,
not all of them. So anyway, oh my goodness. Yep, that
You
is
had to
now
say that.
that is now on camera. No, he's been doing a great job, guys. We got our Yukon axles put in. I did give him a nice aerosol overhaul to keep them from rusting. He's finishing up this side. We kept the same hubs, torqued them down, same brakes, rotors and pads, and that will conclude the front. I did check our track bar. Everything is still tight. All of our shocks look fine, and I'm pretty happy. What do you think?
it's ready for race day.
Ready for race day? Probably not, but. And then the real star of the show here.
Nick. Treated me like they did.
A lot of you guys might remember this. This is Ben Shadede's son.
One of.
Okay. He's coming down and he is going to give me a little bit of an education on this rear end here, but that will be picking up in the morning. All right, so it is the next morning. Actually, it's almost lunchtime, but you know how that works. We got our Yukon 373 gear set, fresh ring and pinion here. We'll get the old one out, but I told Nick, I said we need to check these parts. We have our Yukon miscellaneous install kits that I've had over the years. We got a new bearing for the pinion. This is your back one, our crush sleeve, nut, some shims. We also have some of the larger bearings for the carrier. Not sure if we're gonna replace those or not. We will take it apart. Nick, shameless plug, where's your shop at?
My shop is in Copper Hill, Tennessee.
Copper Hill, where is that? I told everyone Southeast Tennessee.
Yeah, around Chattanooga.
Okay. And what do you guys specialize in?
Automotive, diesel, anything. Lift kits, builds, whatever you need.
All right. You got a phone number you want everyone to call and know you with, or?
423-241-9494.
And guys, when it comes to like some of the more delicate details, not gonna lie, Nick's probably your guy over myself. We're definitely more of the down and dirty. Nick definitely he's got more patience, I guess. Right, Nick? Would you say you have patience?
Have to. I deal with you two all day long.
Yeah, that's true. And where you used to work for Chrysler, right?
Yeah, for 9 years.
So when it comes to like gears and stuff, a lot of the random questions, he's our go-to man. All right, so to get your ring gear carrier off, you're going to pull the axles out, and then from there, axles out both sides, diff cover comes off. Then you're gonna undo your adjustment locks here and here. Then you will essentially kind of loosen your caps up a little bit, and then these actually spin. I'll be honest, I don't know which way is which on these. However, I will tell you that they're opposite. So if you spin this one up to loosen it, you'll spin this one down to loosen it. So then we will essentially kind of spread these apart, pull the caps off, and this whole thing will come apart. Nick is here on a weekend, so I'm not sure how awesome this video will be in detail, just because he does have to go, but you guys can kind of see the grooves we have on these teeth. Like in a video it doesn't do it justice, but like I'm catching my finger on these edges of these teeth. Like, what would you say, Nick? Maybe one more hook and these would have, a lot of pitting, a lot of, like, you feel how sharp that edge is on the heel. So it was time, but we'll get this all pulled apart and show you guys the pinion. To get the pinion off, you bust this nut out, and then we will kind of pry this off. And this is a very heavy piece, guys, so be careful. Oh. The pinion don't look too bad. Pinion looks alright. Can we just reuse that?
Look at this one.
Oof. Oof. Yeah, it was not happy. But that Yukon Limited or Grizzly Logger don't care. Splines are still straight in that.
Bearings are good, no fretting.
Nice. Alright guys, well all we're gonna do is press all of the old stuff off. Just a tidbit, your ring gear bolts, which are back here, are regular thread on the front, and they are reverse thread, or they are regular threads on the back. The front is reverse thread, so righty loosey, lefty tighty. So when you go to put your Milwaukee on there, you're almost guaranteed to snap that first bolt off. Okay, so we got the old ring gear off. We use the bolts to kind of about half thread it in, and then you kind of beat them out. Carrier looks fine, so we're gonna reuse that. We got our new 373 gear set here, and we have our bearings for the carrier in the toaster oven currently getting preheated for us, so that way they go all nice and smooth. To do this, basically you kind of get it started on the carrier here, and then you use the bolts to draw it in. I preheated these in our toaster oven. Got this one side done. You ready for the other side? Once it cools off enough to stay.
Yep. Once it cools, we'll put the ring gear on it and then flip it over and put the other bearing on.
Sounds good. So to put the ring gear on, we'll kind of hold it up, get the bolts started, and kind of use the bolts to suck it on, right?
Yep.
Okay. Somewhere out there's an engineer that designed a torque spec for these bolts. I'm sure they didn't plan on you reusing them, but in the observation of haste here, we are just going to use the 3-step Milwaukee method, which is all the bolts in a cross pattern on setting 1, then 2, and then 3 to cinch these down with the red Loctite here. 263. We'll get that done, and we'll show you guys how we put the bearing on the other side. I'll try to get a better video. All right, and here we have my pizza oven slash bearing and crank gear warmer upper. And you want to move kind of quick because these bearings do cool off rather fast. So make sure you wear gloves for this procedure. Girl over. Take your little driver tool. And then there is a tool for this. I do not have it. So you just kind of tap it down with your puzzle or punch there on the inboard side of the race.
You're seated.
And she is fully seated, bottomed out. And if it doesn't bottom out now, you'll do your adjustment and go to check your gear oil and it'll find its own bottom. Now we'll let that cool and get the pinion put in. Nick already hammered out all the races off of the housing there, so we'll get those installed as well. So we have the trans. It was kind of 50-50 on if we were gonna pull it. There is the debris in there, not bad. That bronze is going to be a lot from the thrust and stuff, so not looking too bad there. And then there's our filter. As you can see, got some debris in it, but really not that bad. Not that bad at all. So we will put a new filter on it, adjust our second gear band, and put this all together. Fresh filter, pan back on, torqued. Everything's tight. We'll fill this up. I'm gonna get this mess cleaned up. Nick's making a couple tools so we can put the pinion bearing on, but looking somewhat positive. We have the pinion on with the bearing. Bearing was in the oven, pinion was in the freezer. Clearly not enough, but it's okay. We made this fancy tool here. Ready? Oh, good. Oh, goodness. Probably have to be this one. Yeah. Here. And then we have these horrible belt pulleys, and this is pretty much all it's ever turned into. We got our pinion shim on, and we're using the race of the old bearing as a press for the new bearing. Now, once you get it all straightened out, that happened off camera. Now you use the shop press, and you guys can see the shim there. Press the old girl in. She's bottomed out. Good. So this is again the large pinion bearing, and all we did was we took the old large pinion bearing and essentially just kept dremeling this away until it slipped on, and now we have a pinion bearing, and there is our old one. So it just kind of slips over instead of being a press fit.
Anyway, as far as pinion torque to rotate, you want around 20-something inch-pounds, which I've figured out with this guy. If you let it swing, it should go just a little past center. It's about accurate.
Oh my God.
What's happening? I'm trying to crush this crush leaf.
All right, so we got that crushed. That tool that Nick bolts on keeps the carrier from spinning, or pinion from spinning, so you can crush that. And now we have this kind of loosely in, and basically we're setting backlash. So you loosen these up move these, and for whatever you take out of this one, put into this one and vice versa. And then we have our backlash at 7 right now. They are not fully torqued, they're just set on with an impact, so it should tighten up once we torque it. And we're gonna check the gear pattern with the toothpaste. So we got our paint. Go ahead. All right, go ahead.
Going the other way. Ready?
Okay.
Gonna go back. Okay, let's see what it looks like. Right in the middle.
So not too bad. And after a few more times around the merry-go, we have a pattern. It's a little easier to see on some of these other ones here. You guys can kind of see we're there, and then we'll drive it in when we add some power to it. So all done. Now I just got to cut my new Yukon axles. So you guys see, these are our old ones. Nothing wrong with these at all. A slight twist on one of them, but that is to be expected with 18 hooks at this kind of power level. So we're gonna put fresh axles, save the old ones for spares, gear oil in this, drive it a little bit, and then we should be good to go. That's gonna be a wrap on this one. I know we did not get super grasshopper. I know we didn't get super in depth in the gears, and I apologize. Nick drove up about 4 hours each way to come help me do this, and I just wanted to make sure it got done and done correctly. Come to find out, the way you set up a factory rear end is quite similar to what you would do on like the higher horsepower stuff. And the key takeaway on all this is that crush sleeve, which is this part right here. So when you do it, you can't just impact the pinion nut back on. You actually have to crush this with like he was using a 3/4 inch ratchet. And then once you crush it, you get to 20 inch-pounds of pinion torque to turn it, torque to spin, which I kind of got a good feel for now that like he did it right in front of me. So that tool that we bolted on that held it against the traction bar, in my case most of the time it's the leaf spring, is what allows you to crush it versus trying to use an impact. So from there, we set our pinion backlash at 6 thousandths. We had a good pattern, and when you do gears in the instructions and stuff, it shows you pictures of good pattern, bad pattern stuff. But basically you want a lot of teeth contact patch, and you want to make sure, especially on like a used differential and stuff, usually you pull the pinion shim off the original pinion and you would start with that one. In our case, it worked out good. In the gear sets I've done on trucks where I re-gear them and stuff, I usually just flip-flop the pinion shim. But his little trick with the bolt-on little piece there, definitely going to make one of those. It will make rear gears really easy. We got our Yukon axle shafts cut down. If you do order the 38 spline chromoly shafts, they come really long. I believe it's for a dually application. You have to cut them down. So we cut those down, put them in. So we now have a used but good set of 38 spline rears, good set of fronts. We put our new CCI driveline in the truck, and our used old one will be our spare now. And yeah, I mean, we got the driveline ready to go. Now we're gonna focus on the last little bit of stuff. Hopefully you guys like this video. Drop a comment down below if you'd like to see a more in-depth gear video. I'm not sure when the next truck coming in will be a re-gear or something like that, but hopefully if I get one, I can show you guys. As always, like it, drop a comment, subscribe if you are not already, and as always, I'll catch y'all in the next one.